So, do you remember when you heard metal music or heavier music for the first time?
Yes, yeah, very much. In fact, I was kind of lucky because I was born 10 years after my two sisters, so I was actually not expected and not wanted to, in fact, but my father was happy to have a son finally. But because my sisters were older, and they were born in the 50s, so it meant that they were a bit, you know, gaining their adolescence by the time it was the end of the 60s. So when I was 3 or 4 years old, and I even remember that, I heard songs like, you know, All on the Watchtower, Satisfaction from the Stones, you know, Watchtower of course from Hendrix. And it was the time when, you know, rock and roll music turned a bit into heavy fucking rock, you know. So, yeah, it's really part of yeah, who I am nowadays. And that's how I think, like, unconsciously, they got into my mind, you know. I mean, no one can forget the riff of a Satisfaction like that. Nah, 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 nah. I mean, it's just heavy as shit. Could be a heavy metal riff, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think that always kept inside of me. And afterwards, when I was not so much, because you grow up as a child, so you know, music doesn't really influence you. But when I grew a bit older, like 8 or 9 years old, and then I saw Kiss on TV. For some broadcaster was like doing a show of them on Dutch TV, which was before the Dynasty album, and they played like, you know, things like Shout It Out Loud and Detroit Rock City, but then live, and I was like blown away as a kid. And then I started to buy like the Kiss albums, and that's how it all started rolling. You know?
So, do you know what was in like heavier music that caught your attention, and what made you fall in love with it?
It was Kiss, in fact. It was Kiss. I mean, consciously it was Kiss, definitely.
So, what made you become a vocalist then? How did that happen?
It was not planned. Really not.
Everybody says the same.
Yeah, it was really not planned. It was, yeah, when I was like 15, 16 years old, and I was into already, you know, Slayer came up back, you know, Show No Mercy was out, Venom had a few albums out, so I was already into the extreme form of metal, you know, in Motorhead. And there were a couple of blokes in my area who had a band, but they were more into hard rock. But because we had nothing else to do, you know, we went there in the practice room and just had a few beers and hang out. And then one day it was a young kid, Patrick, from later Pestilence. He was 15 years old and he came there just to do kind of an audition or help them out. And we were like, wow, this kid's really good. And he was playing Metallica and Slayer. And then the vocalist of that band was a really good guy. And he had a possessive voice like Ronnie James Dio. But most of the time he didn't turn up. Yeah. So when Patrick started to do like this metal, Metallica and Slayer things, and people say, oh, Martin, you know the lyrics. So yeah, so I was trying. So that was just for the fun of it. Years after, me and Patrick met in, you know, it's called a hometown Enschede, and so like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? And he goes, how you doing? And I go, yeah, I'm okay. And he goes, yeah, I have a band. I'm looking for a singer. And I don't know why I replied. He said, well, I'm a singer looking for a band. But I never had that intention. It just came out. And then he said, okay, you know, come to the practice room, see. And before I knew it, I was in Pestilence. And then things started rolling.
Obviously, there's quite a big leap still from like Slayer to
Pestilence music. It goes like even more extreme. So
yeah, in fact, myself, I wasn't even into that kind of extremities. I mean, I knew, of course, Possessed. And you know, the early Carnivore albums, but still, yeah, Pestilence was quite of a, yeah. Well, on the other hand, there was Creator Pleasure to Kill, you know, the first Solemn album. So it was already on the, you know, the extremities were already getting more extreme than we were used to.
So how did you started to shape the voice that you have today? Were you first like singing covers of your favorite vocalist, or how did it happen?
Yeah, well, you shape it. I mean, first you try to do your best, and everybody who knows me can hear the enormous difference between the Malleus Maleficarum and the Consuming Impulse album. There's two different worlds. And yeah, Malleus, I had more like this kind of a Jeff Becerra approach, but it wasn't right because I knew every show I had my arteries quite bursting in my skull. I had a headache afterwards, so the technique was not good. So I had to find a different technique. And when during the Consuming recordings in Berlin, the guys tried to push me like to become more extreme. And you know, I didn't know any other technique. So one night I went out, like, you know, fuck all of you with your shit recordings and your demands and all the bullshit. I go now straight into Berlin in the night, go to a fucking bar, get pissed out of my head, and next day we'll see what's gonna happen. So they were all like worried, like, where the hell did he go? It was Martin, we have a fucking record to finish. I came back the next day, and then I go, okay, how about this? And I go, like, whoa! You know, and I go, that's it, Martin, that's it. And that's it. Now you can kill John Tardy maybe, or Jebba, but this is it, this is what we want. Okay, if this was what you want, this is my new technique. And then after I try to, perfectionize that, mainly during live shows to keep it, you know, to maintain it, honestly. And then, and that's all, and you take it from there. And I was lucky enough to be able to maintain it, even now after, 37 years or something, or 34 years.
So was like Pestilence the first proper band that you were in?
Yeah.
And with Pestilence, did you like immediately jump right into your own music, or were you like playing also covers?
No, we did our own music. Yeah.
So you, as a vocalist, you didn't basically ever imitate anyone.
No.
You jumped like straight into doing your own thing, or?
Yeah. But of course, like with my own heroes in mind, you know. I mean, when I heard the Malays, I'm like, okay, you know, cool. This has a touch like, you know, maybe like Becerra Possessed, or maybe some Kronos or Venom, or maybe some Lemmy, you know, but it was never that I thought, okay, I have to sound like them, or try. I just tried to be, you know, a part of the band, and you know, because a band has to be like a complete integration, and then as a, you know, work as a unit, and to be, as a vocalist, of course, to be part of that band and to make them better, because you are the first that people hear. You know, the first the vocalist, after they can listen to the guitars, but the vocalist is the first one they're going to hear. But it was never conscious. You know, this whole weird thing about the story, myself a little bit, that I never had the feeling that I was consciously trying to sound like someone, you know, that I knew before. All I wanted to do was make the best out of the band and do the best for the band.
So did you ever sing any of those band songs like at home, for example, and rehearsed and tried to become a better, or was it just you were just screaming and growling at Pestilence's rehearsal space? Or?
Yes, back then, yes. Back then. Nowadays I have a different, you know, because I have to keep my voice going, but nowadays I can practice and do it at home, you know, but then I let the songs roll and then scream with them just to maintain. You know, because that's all it's all about nowadays, like maintenance. You know, but no, I never did it. You know, the way you asked.
So were you like ever blowing up your voice in the early days, and did it take like a long time to figure out, like you said, the right technique for it, so you can do like many shows in a row, for example?
Yeah. Well, if you do a 2-month tour in the USA, you have no food and not get paid. Yeah, you blow it up one day, definitely. And it happens. It happens. I mean, you cannot train or arm yourself for that. You know, always unexpected things can happen. You can catch a cold. It can be the air conditioning in aeroplanes that ruins it. So no, you can train, you can practice as much as you can do before a tour, but you can never arm yourself, for getting damaged. But
strangely with me is that even if I lost it sometimes during a tour, 1 or 2 days, then you're on a low level.
But there's nothing you can do. You have to continue. Tour is booked, people paid the tickets, bought it in advance, so you have to continue. And with me, it always was like, after 1 or 2 days, 3 days, it returned. And then better than ever, because it was damaged, it healed, and then it could not be destroyed anymore. So now, then it's, yeah.
What kind of like first memories do you have when it comes to the first proper full tours that you did? Were you ready as a vocalist to do like show after show after show, or was it like a learning experience? I guess it was also quite a lot of partying as well with the first tours.
It was. Like I said before, you know, I wasn't even conscious of doing it. You know, I was just really happy and proud, you know, to be part of that fucking circus. I didn't care. Just like you said, you were partying, and you were young, so you have a shitload of energy, you know, bursting into you, and yeah, it was nothing there was no thought behind it. Oh, I have to be careful for my voice, or I have to, you know, but no, you were just going on stage after you go into the crowd, find pretty girls, you know, get drunk, whatever. No drugs, you know, no drugs. We never did that, but yeah, it was basically you did things and you weren't thinking about it. You were just cherishing the moment and being grateful for what happened to you, because, you know, don't forget, I was an old metalhead, and all of a sudden I was doing the same as my old heroes, which was to me like, wow, how did it ever happen? You know, and to be honest, I still can't believe it. Really.
Do you have like a warm-up routine, and did you have back in the days? Has that changed through the years when you become older?
Yeah, it's all about what I said about maintenance. You know, like, for example, for this show, and Asphyx never tours. We only do shows every weekend, or maybe 2 shows a weekend, because of the jobs of the guys. But still, you know, I have to be in shape. So what I do is I build it up at home. You know, after the show, I take it easy. You know, 1 or 2 days do nothing, and then I start to build it up towards the next show. But I have a technique. It may sound silly, and I think some people already know, because it has been a subject to certain interviews. As a kid, my dad he worked in the Dutch Air Force. And he came one day, he came back with a helmet and a oxygen mask of a F-104 starfighter pilot. You know, just be, wow, this looks cool in my room, you know. And then later on, when I was already doing metal for a long time, I was, shit, you know, I really like to practice at home instead of renting another practice room. On my way there, I just want to do the thing, you know, when I want to.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, shit, I have this mask and this helmet somewhere. What if I put the music loud on, with the mask in front of my face, and scream like a pig, you know? And it worked, because the neighbors were not hearing anything except for a little bit of the music. They go, wow, this is a great technique. So then I was able to do it every day. You know, just get that mask, put it in front of my face. Not getting oxygen is just that what the pilot uses in the cockpit, you know? So it's just to silence it, more or less. And I could scream like hell. And this is how I still train today.
Okay, that's interesting. I guess nobody does that.
Nobody does it, but I can recommend any singer like this. You go to an army dump store, you buy a fucking gas mask, you put it in front of your face, and you can scream to hell. And then you turn better, you know. And you can do it any time of day. You know? You don't need a practice room, or go there, or have a car, or take a bus or a train to get there. You don't have to pay your practice room.
You would be a good salesman for gas masks. In terms of like foods and drinks before the show, have you felt that something helped you with the singing when it comes to foods or drinks, or on the opposite side, something that you don't want to take, that it harms your vocal cords?
Well, I mean, for me, it's just food and beer and cigarettes. You know, sorry. That's all. And yeah, what I cannot use is very spiced drinks. You know, like with chili peppers or something in it. That doesn't do any good. Yeah. You know, sometimes in Germany, they came for a show. Hey, have this shot. And there was this kind of shot with a shit lot of fucking chilies in it. And I'm like, fuck. Okay, I could still do it, but it was not feeling very comfortable. So I would not do that. No.
Have you felt that something helps? Like, for example, some people say that Coca-Cola helps, or Sprite helps, or something creates like a throat coat, which is like makes things easier for you.
No, like I said, just beer and cigarettes. You know, the old rock and roll formula, you know.
Lemmy would approve this.
Exactly. That's one of my biggest idols, even though I don't sound like him. But, you know, if you hear Lemmy just do his talk in the studio, you know, this guy doesn't even have to do anything. He's like, you know, this Lemmy, there you got it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
But so, you know, that's kind of an old school thing of yeah, me as well. You know, I was raised with these guys, and then, you know, everybody was smoking cigarettes. Nowadays, it's not very common anymore, which is good, by the way. You know, I really don't recommend kids to start smoking. But yeah, you know, if you got caught in that trap, and me, it's like, okay, give me a couple of beers, give me a couple of cigarettes. I'm fine, and I can live with that. It's not as bad, you know. But that's my thing, and even before a show, I don't warm up. I don't care, you know. I could go right straight after this interview. I could go straight on stage, meet the guys. Hey, let's fucking kick ass. Let's rage and do it. You know, there's no. I don't need any preparation really.
Every vocalist is very different. Like everybody who we have interviewed in this series has been very different. There's been some vocalists who warm up 3 hours before the show.
Yeah, but
and some people who just go up on stage, and everybody has their own way to do things, and that's completely fine.
And that's a fantastic thing because every human being is different.
Yep.
And that's the interesting thing about human beings. You know, to not be all you know, the same. You know, to not be, you know, like cattle.
So you have obviously released a lot of albums during your career. You've done albums with like Pestilence and obviously Asphyx, and obviously you've done also Hail of Bullets, for example. Are there like some specific albums that you could pinpoint from the discography that you have felt that you're taking like big step forward as a singer, learn something new about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, the Consuming Impulse first, because that is where I, you know, found, you know, the voice that I'm still using today. Second, the Asphyx Direct, because that's where I perfectionized it. Also with the kind of style of metal that I really wanted to play, that I realized, okay, I really like the mix of the Black Sabbath-ish doom with the death metal of that era. Hail of Bullets also was an honor, you know, to be performing with guys like Ed Warby on drums behind you on stage, which is, you know, a hammer machine, and do my concepts about war. Yeah, everything actually. And the Blood Chord is, you know, we have a, it started as a bloody joke, but, you know, we have a funny show coming up, which was not planned with the Blood Chord, in about 2 weeks. But then I listened to the album afterwards, and I was like, well, this is maybe, could be one of my best vocal performances ever on record, you know, because it really sounds good. So, you know, but you still, even though after all these years, you still grow, you still, if you go, sometimes you have a, we now work, for example, with a very young engineer, Tom, and we do it for a couple of years. But Tom, you know, I'm not too old to reject advice from a younger guy, you know. And if he comes with good ideas, hey, I can still learn. You know, why not? Life is a never-ending school. It's a never-ending education. So I don't know where it will lead to. Maybe I can still perform my best album ever. You know, who knows?
You think that basically every album is a like step forward,
yes,
in a way for you.
Yes, yeah, because it's always a learning school, no matter what. You always there will never be an album where if you make an album as a band and as an individual performer that form the band, and you all say to yourself to each other afterwards like,
This is the perfect album. Then there's no more to record. When you're finished.
That's very true.
When you reach your goals.
so then there's nothing to, you say that challenges you anymore. The challenge is gone. So after every album, there's always even it's a little shitty thing. You're gonna, shit, I can improve that. Well, that's then the lesson you take with you for the next. And so with live performances, it's the same thing. You know, you always learn. That's what makes it still so interesting.
So
that's why it makes me go in too still.
as a death metal vocalist, there's quite a lot of talking always about like vocalists copying the microphone when they perform. So what do you think about it? Does it bother you, or?
It bothers me because it's a simple way to do it. I show live on purpose that I'm not doing it.
Okay. How do you hold the microphone then?
Yeah, like I do now.
Okay.
Like this one. So this is always visible. To show like, look, I'm not cheating.
Do you feel that
I mean, if I do this right now to you, like, all right. That's what people are gonna. It's really simple. And that's not. It doesn't take any effort. You know, come on, you have to work hard. You know, for what you do. People pay a lot of money to see you on stage, so you have to work hard. It's not a job that to take for granted or that's simple. If you want to be a good death metal vocalist, you have to work hard. You have to practice a lot. You can't do it off like with no, you can't. If you do that, you're a cheater, in my opinion.
So I have few questions left. The second last one actually goes that what were your parents' reactions when they heard you screaming your lungs out?
Yeah, whatever.
Did they say anything to you?
Well, my mom died a long time ago, so I was raised without a mom. There was a lot of stepmoms. And my dad never even approved the music I was listening to.
Okay.
You know, so I had to be, you know, I was already a rebel back then. So I was hardly at home, and by the time I was into the bands, I had no contact with my dad already anymore.
Okay.
But it must be said that after a few years, you know, we got back into good contact. And there was a short while I was in Bolflower for 2 long European tours. And then we started always off in my hometown. So I said to my dad, come over, you know, go watch.
So I reserved a special place for him, and I said to all the people in the audience, leave my fucking dad alone, you know, leave me. And then, yeah, the show was over.
And I was like, okay, I just want to see how he, you know, if he liked it yesterday. He was gone. And where the fuck did he go? So I quickly said to the venue back then, because there was no cell phones, you know, I was like, give me the fucking telephones. I phoned home, said, why the hell, you're home? I cannot fucking see my son going on stage, and I was like, boots flying 5 or 10 centimeters away from his fucking head to be kicked in. You're fucking crazy, you're nuts. I said, hey dad, that's fucking death metal. Sorry, this is my job, this is what I do, this is what I love. He goes, no. So no, he did not approve at all.
Last question, and obviously the one that most likely has been asked you from like a lot of people before, but any kind of advice that you would like to give to a young metal vocalist who is just about to start that journey? Anything that comes into your mind?
Yes, it's the first thing is that try to be original. Don't try to sound like, yeah, your idols or sound like any other in it. No, this is nowadays bloody difficult because there's so many metal bands. But I think it can be possible. You know, I've seen a couple of youngsters, I heard a couple of youngsters better maybe, that from which people said to me, like, well, Martin, listen to this. You know, and there was, for example, Chris from Skeletal Remains. He has a fantastic voice. They toured through Europe quite some years ago with an American band called Morphine. I never heard of them.
The kid on stage sounded like Chuck Schuldiner on the Leprosy album. I was like, what? No way. Okay, he may have sounded a bit like Chuck, but he was young, you know, he could develop.
And I think there's a lot of vocalists who can do it that way. And even if you don't sound like your death metal heroes or whatever, then try and listen to the punk ones. You know, go listen to Discharge, or to Exploited, or whatever, or the German thrash or the American thrash. You know, there's so many different, you know, streams in metal that you can turn to. But yeah, the main advice is try to be original. Try to be and try to enjoy what you do, you know, not be tense. Just go on stage and enjoy it. Have a party, you know, have a good time. That's what it's all about. Yeah, last is, if you want to reach that, yeah, then, sorry kids, but you got to have a lot of discipline to train. It's not only party every night. You can do that, but then, yeah, you will go down. That's how it is. So that's the only thing I can say.
Thanks a lot, Martin, for doing this with us.
Very welcome. It was a pleasure. Thank you.